And away we go. Pretty positive I got the audio settings on lock. How's it going? Captain Poseidon, welcome to the stream. No one plays that shit. Well, that is sort of the expected answer. But I'm curious about the inquiry. I want to put a poll out and see see what people say. Flame Lord, how's it going? Have you ever played Combat Patrol? Gears are turning, everybody. I have thoughts on Combat Patrol. But today we're painting various traitors. I have the usual suspects over here, pretty much in their same state. We're just going to jump around, chill out, nothing really specific in mind. I'm just going to put some paint down and get these guys closer, looking to what I would like them to look like. That's the plan. Captain Poseidon says, out with the 40k. I remember the dwarf disrespect from last video. The dwarf disrespect from last video. Look. Dwarves have their fans. I'm just not really one of them. I mean, I like Gimli. Who doesn't like Gimli, though? I feel like that's a freebie. Tramari says, I haven't played it. I may have to try playing Tabletop Simulator to get my feet wet, though. Oh, I don't think it's good. I'm just asking. I'm just asking. I'm curious to see people's position on Combat Patrol. Flame Lord says, I never play Combat Patrol. More than fair, Flame Lord. More than fair. Okay, I'm going to try darkening this armor. I think I mentioned it on last stream. I want the purple to be something closer to the green power armor of a Dark Angels. That vibrant but dark tone. So that's the goal. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to mix some black. I'm going to mix a Vallejo black with Vallejo purple, and we'll see. Like, yes, he looks fine, but not what I would want. So we're going to try out a bit of an experiment. We're doing it live. Flamlord says, I think I told you in one of your oldest streams I never played the tabletop game, and I'm not interested in it. I'm only interested in the lore and the games, of course. Ah, yes. You may have, indeed, Flame Lord. I can remember that. Sorry. Sorry, but thanks for clarifying again. Much appreciated. We'll start with this big old pad. Yeah, this is looking fairly dark, fairly rich. Packing is kicking your butt right now. It's tough to remember everything. What are you packing for, Tramari? Hopefully something exciting. Gravis Clendenin, welcome to the stream. How much more difficult is it painting for a camera versus painting not on stream? Oh, it's like 1,000 times more difficult. That is the truth of it. I feel like as look, it appears I do not have a multi-core processor. I will be transparent with you guys. It's too difficult to maintain attention to chat and also put down paint as I would like. Generally, if I'm hobbying, just chilling, winding down, I am not streaming, I'm just putting down some paint. But I feel if I do that... See, the thing is, I don't feel like I'm good enough of a painter to just paint silently. No one would care. Everyone's here for my winning personality, obviously. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry. It should have a matte finish, and I think that is probably fairly close to that Dark Angel's value. Obviously, a different color. The dark purple armor. Purple's a weird pigment. I find it's hard to find a rich purple paint. It's so easy to find a rich green, blue, or red. I'm not sure if that's a chemical or pigment limitation. Oh, Tramari says a trip to France. Ah, yes. Gonna eat some delicious foods, I'd wager. Some nice pastries, maybe. Flamelord says, my cat is chilling with me. She's on my... My cat is chilling with me. She's a sleepy little white tiger. That is adorable. More of a dog person myself, but cat's alright. Cats can be pretty cool. I feel like now that I've cracked the code for the purple aesthetic, the dark rich purple armor color, might need to revise the metallics. Might be worth considering. And the other challenge of painting on stream, I'm not trying to make this sound like it's a terrible time or anything like that, but so it's often the case that I drift from keeping the model in frame just because I get too into the painting itself. And then it's like, why am I even streaming if I'm not even showing what's going on? So, which is inevitable. It's you can't help that. That's just the way it goes. Tramari says, I'll be sure to get plenty of Gothic architecture for the Grim Darkness. Oh, hell yeah. That might be the coolest part about going to Europe. Or visiting European countries. That old age architecture. The old world, right? Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the food's good too, though. Though I haven't been to France myself. I hear people talk about French food like it's the best, but I haven't really tried it myself. Yeah, on the topic of Combat Patrol, I've been having some weird thoughts lately about Combat Patrol, and that it's kind of a waste. I don't know if I probably won't make it a full video. I don't know. Like a rambly thoughts on video, but I just can't help but feel that there's a good idea in Combat Patrol, right? Like these these prefabbed, pre-collected units that go together that ideally would be emblematic of a faction or sub-faction, right? Something thematic. And then you're ready to go. You can put them on the tabletop, play some quick games, and you're done, right? And then in the time you'd play a 2K game, maybe you'd play 2 to 3 Combat Patrol games, right? Similar to Kill Team in that regard, like fast turnover time because fewer models. But the rules and the overall game design and mission structure of Combat Patrol just seem poor, to put it nicely. They seem very poor. Flamelord says, my brother asked me why the white scars are hard to paint. Let me restart. Hold on. My brother asked me why the white scars are hard to paint it white, and I say because the plastic on the tabletop model is hard white paint to get on. That's how I think it works. I could be wrong. No, you're... If I'm understanding you correctly, Flamelord, I believe that is correct. Yeah, white pigments are notoriously difficult to work with. They're just too chalky. Hence the white scar, right? Open it up, not quite paint, some sort of mysterious goop that never seems to dry out, but always applies like it's dry. And it's very chalky. There are workarounds. I think to GW's credit, the whole contrast innovation, well, I don't know how much credit you can give them for it, but the main streamification of using inks via specialist paint types like contrast and speed paints does make painting white armor easier because you can prime bright and then just apply like a defining glaze over top. Tremari says, a great idea, poor execution, with reference to Combat Patrol, I imagine. Yes. Yeah, because now everyone in my local playgroup essentially just looks at Combat Patrols as an entry point or bundle box to buy models for the main game. And personally, I mean, that feels like a shame. But at the same time, perhaps GW, right? Perhaps GW does not have or rather, they have a vested interest in not making Combat Patrol a valid game system. Maybe they have a vested interest in only using Combat Patrol as a gateway drug, so to speak. But you know what? Even it fails as a gateway drug because no one plays Combat Patrol. They're just buying it because models are perhaps a bit cheaper, right? You might get a free character or however the pricing works out. Yeah, you could say they have a vested interest in keeping it from being too good, but they haven't even made it semi-good. Which is definitely a bummer. Just from a hobbyist and painting perspective, I think there's an audience for people who don't want to go through the labor of building 2,000 points of an army, but they think, you know what, Votann are neat. And then you would just, but no one wants to play Combat Patrol, so then that isn't really an option. Fatman's Kitchen, Emperor's Champion, welcome to the stream. Emperor's Champion says, well, first of all, we have to acknowledge that the Emperor's Children is in the chat. Or sorry, the Emperor's Champion. Excuse the Freudian slip. I blame my dyslexia. The Emperor's Champion says, I played a few games early on in the edition and won my store tournament too. Since then, everyone I know just plays incursion-style games now. I haven't touched it in like 18 months. What's the price point on Incursion? 1,000? So it's like twice the size of Combat Patrol? I mean, depending. I know some Combat Patrols are closing in on 600 points, and some are closer to 300. I mean, take it with a grain of salt because the unit conversion isn't 1-to-1 in Combat Patrol. There are deviations with abilities and things like that. Some war gear deviations, I think, also. Some weapons might not be precision, for example, or have different abilities. How about you, Fat Man's Kitchen? Have you played Combat Patrol? Tramar says, sorry, I need to get to packing. You pack that suitcase, Tramari. Don't you worry. It says it's mentally taxing. To play the 2,000-point games? Definitely can be. Definitely can be. I think regulars, 40k diehards, right? Tournament players that are all in can take, not all of them, but some of them can take for granted the mental capacity required, because you get used to, I don't know if you guys are aware, but human beings can get used to anything. You just get used to managing all these units and all their abilities and all the stratagems and all the secondaries and what to do in every phase. But for the uninitiated, it can be quite the barrier. I can, now that I'm applying the paint over, I can see all the areas where I've fumbled on the trim. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like an Emperor's Children, a Marine of the Emperor's Children, should probably be flawless. Okay, so with the armor darker, that's closer to what I want. I wonder if edge highlighting will just bring it all together. Fat Man's Kitchen says, nah, no Combat Patrol. I would want to play my own Combat Patrol-sized army if I did. Fair enough, right? Just basically 500-point games, something like that. One second, guys. I have to check my messages. I have to make sure there's no emergencies. Seems good. Seems good. I have to make sure there are no crisis alerts. Crisis alert. That's a reference. I'll be curious to see if anyone in chat can pick that up. Everyone knows I have the best references. Yeah, with regards to trying to emulate the heavy metal team's painting of why do I keep wanting to say Emperor's Children? The painting of their Dark Angels and Crimson Fists, it seems like the double highlight is paramount. It seems like it relies on a solid, dark but rich base coat, and then a double highlight. Insofar as I can tell, anyways. Because you don't really see Chaos Space Marines painted that way, but I think the Emperor's Children would look really good with that effect. And maybe the Word Bearers would look good too in that darker, that richer scheme, which would help separate them out from the World Eaters, honestly. Flamelord says, I don't know if I mentioned this on your older live stream. Bad if you see speech mistakes errors on me because I'm using speech to text because I'm a slow typer. No problem, Flamelord. I can't recall if you mentioned it, but Look. Let the record show you have. I get that. Yeah, the problem with me and speech to, or text-to-speech. Text-to-speech? No, speech-to-text. The problem I have with speech-to-text is that I am a better thinker than speaker. It's actually something I want to improve upon. Hashtag goals. Hashtag goals. And like on this leg, I'm having this like age-old problem with painting. Never mind painting white scars and white power armor. Painting black is also very challenging. Very challenging, I'd say. It's the readability, it's the opposite problem. Paint goes on smooth, unlike with white pigments, but the readability of what you're putting the paint on suffers. Whereas with white scars and painting white power armor, readability is nearly automatic. It's so easy to discern all the edges and facets and recesses. You see that on cars too. Totally unrelated, but... Fat Man's Kitchen says, still trying to decide on a base color for my Abaddon proxy. The banners are done though. A base color? You mean like the color, the base color of the armor, or the basing scheme color? Base color. I don't know. Personally, I like to paint my proxies in the color of what they're proxying as, so it's easy to tell. This is the protocol I employed on all of my not GW Phoenix Lords, where I kind of want them to be as easily to represent their legendary status, you know, as possible. I want to create barriers. Ideally, like with a conversion, you'd want it to be like, oh, that's Osterman, 100%. That looks sweet, right? Fat Man's Kitchen says base color for the base. Ah. Well, are you looking to do something I mean, I guess I would have to assume you're looking to do something special for him. Or he's the first model in your army. If he's Black Legion colors, I am more prone to brighter basing schemes. Me personally. Me personally. Flame Lord says, my problem with speech-to-text autocorrect cannot understand my accent sometimes. Sometimes it feels like it's doing it on purpose just to make fun of me. That's pretty funny, Flame Lord. I couldn't help but read it in such a sad voice. Oh, man. I'm sure it's not on purpose. It's too bad. You'd think with software and apps these days, things would be smart enough, you know. AI is a thing. Would it not be smart enough to learn the intricacies of someone's accent? Fat Man's Kitchen says, I'm thinking Mars Sand. The proxy is 3 Black Legion Legionnaires on a mound, the highest one holding a banner. Ah, a little command unit. Well, yeah, red Martian bases will look good with black armor. That is what I would have in my imaginary Iron Hands army. A little bit worse on the Black Legion side because you have that trim, that warm gold trim offsetting the black power armor already. But that's just the challenge of Chaos Space Marines. You just have more going on in general. Okay, let's paint some reds. Let's paint some world eaters. Some eaters of worlds. So we'll use corn red, obviously. And maybe some pure red from Army Painter. I should pull up some reference too. Corn Berserker. There we go. That'll be a perfect reference. Flamelord says, I know it's not making fun of me, it's just hard for this thing to understand me because of my southern accent. Totally fair. Totally fair. I was just having some fun imagining. Obviously want his fingers red, and he's got these cool brass knuckles. Look at that. Looks like GW wants the Berserker's weapons to have black weapon casings, which is fine. But personally, I think white would look better. It would definitely show off the gore better, which the armor already struggles with doing. So I might opt for white weapon casings. This is part of the reason why the 30K World Eaters color schemes is just objectively better. It's a better color scheme, I'm convinced. Now, I suppose a best of both worlds would be to just paint the old scheme and just go so heavy on the gore that it's essentially a 40k armor scheme. But I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't done weathering to such a degree, and I'm not exactly confident. I also don't want to turn this into I don't know. How would I phrase it? A gold standard piece? Kind of just... I want to paint them nicely, but not... I don't want to turn it into a chapter master in terms of levels of effort, if you know what I'm saying. I want to keep the scope reasonable. Just so it's... you know, you put on the tabletop and it's like, oh, that's pretty nice. That's a pretty cool looking guy. Okay, we got his bunny ears in place. Those all important bunny ears. And what about the back? Oh, it's just solid? Oh, there's a little spot here. Flamelord says, so it is hard to paint human skin on the tabletop models on human characters, including Space Marines without helmets. So is it hard? I don't think the skin tones are hard. I think you get used to it, just like painting armor tones. It's just less common, is what I think. So it becomes harder by comparison. I don't have. I was just looking around for my Stormcast, but I don't have any nearby. They have some cool faces. Well, faces I think I've done a pretty cool job on. Yeah, painting faces is hard just because it's so small and it's very obvious and glaring and sometimes appalling if things look off. The human eye notices when faces are off. And so most people will keep helmets on. And you know what? There is an argument to be said for keeping your helmets on. Why would my soldier take his helmet off if he's on the battlefield? But I kind of like the no helmet look sometimes. Adds more character, certainly. It could be a moment of respite on a larger battlefield, right? A more scenic piece. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so I think that base coat should be fine. If I build up some pure red on top of this, it should more or less be good and ready to go for edge highlighting / armor trim. Wow, this is like really loud. I'm gonna just jump ahead here in the soundtrack. It's like appallingly loud. Hopefully for you guys, it's not as bad. Any other spots I'm missing? Doesn't appear to be the case. Do I have any white on the palette? No. No, I do not. I mean, with regards to your question, Flame Lord, in the painting of skin, I guess technically it can be harder to paint goods. It is harder, actually, to paint to a high level skin as a material than armor, because of its the subtle variations you would expect, and then there's also like subsurface scattering, things like that, texture scars. I mean, okay, well, scars you can write off as weathering. Those apply to armor as well. But definitely the subsurface way, the subsurface scattering, the way light would affect skin is definitely different than armor. If you're painting to like the highest level possible of those materials, it would be harder to do skin, I think. I'm pretty confident in saying that's probably objectively true. Probably objectively true. So I've just mixed in some pure red here with the corn red. And I think it should give a decent base tone, and then we'll just be edge highlighting from there. I do feel like there is less edge highlighting on Chaos Space Marines. But you have trim to deal with, so it's a different problem. I have been informed that Space Marine 2 got a little balance update today. And it seems, I did a perusal of the update, and it seems like Siege mode has gotten a bit easier across many of the changes. So that's sort of a plus, because I would like to finish Siege mode at some point. I want that weapon casing, those white weapon casings. It's actually rather annoying to me you can't just color code your weapon casings the way you would want to, like you would your armor. It's kind of stupid to gate that as a progression reward. In my opinion, it's a poor choice on the developer's part. And even then, it's not even like the color of your choice. It's just like bright blue, bright red, or white. Wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man. Welcome to the stream, and very cool username. My local game shop is starting a league, and they want to have the first part of the league be Combat Patrol. Okay, well I guess technically that would count towards, yes, you've played Combat Patrol. That would probably be a maybe once or twice, you know? They're literally drawing you out from it. Like, use this as a starting point and build, and we're moving away. Like that, the plan is we're moving away from Combat Patrol. So I think that scores just the once or twice in terms of the general consensus of what we're trying to gauge here. I wouldn't mind so much if GW didn't give up on balancing Combat Patrol halfway through 10th. That's definitely part of it, right? No one's playing it, so then there's no desire for them to balance it. That's part of it. That is definitely a encouraging factor, or discouraging factor. But also, I think the design is just a bit bad. My recent dabblings with AOS started with Spearhead, and I was very much impressed by how much better it is as a entry mode than Combat Patrol. And that's sort of what's coloring the inquiry here. I do like this pure red paint, but I do find it is dry, much more translucent than how it goes on, so it does take a few passes. Perhaps I'm watering it down too much, but like, it is a nice red though. While having them basically be starting boxes, like prior editions, anyone trying to play Combat Patrol will have very different experiences based on which patrol they choose. Yeah, there's some real horror stories with Combat Patrol where you'll just get obliterated because... What's the example that I was relayed the other day? It was a Dark Angels Combat Patrol has something like a Redemptor Dreadnought, I think Hellblasters, and an Intercessor Squad, something like this. And then the Sisters of Battle had, like, Combat Patrol had something like a Palatine, 10 Battle Sisters, and maybe a Rhino. Can't recall the details exactly, but the point of the story that was relayed to me was that it was a wash. The Dark Angels just utterly destroyed. Just demolished the Sisters. And I think conceptually, Combat Patrol is supposed to use that secondary objective as a balancing factor so that if your faction's weak or low potency, let's say, you'll have a easier secondary objective. But that's lame design, dude, if you ask me. Super lame. That doesn't feel satisfying to me. So yeah, my army's bad, so it's just easier to play. The cool game there. That's reminiscent of 9th edition, and that's where combat patrols were born out of, right? So 10th edition's combat patrols are riding the backs of 9th edition mission design, it seems. Yeah, I actually, after I say it and think about it, I think that is true. That was the structure they used for 9th edition's missions, and it was part of the reason why I hated 9th edition. But at least in 9th edition, you could pick your secondaries. But I guess combat patrol, you're picking one of two. So, you know what? We're doubling back. It is very much 9th edition mission design. Which makes sense. I mean, some of those combat patrols were from 9th edition. Yeah, you're either a starter box or you're a game mode. I don't know if it's... I mean, maybe it's the designer's job to try and rhyme that line. Certainly easier in Age of Sigmar, where potency can be much easier. It can be controlled with much more ease in Age of Sigmar's core rules because of the one-factor wound test. So I think you can just kind of dial up a quality unit if you need one pretty easily. So just checking in on the poll. So far we have 13 votes, 15% yes, 38 maybe once or twice, 38 never. That's interesting. And 8% say what's combat patrol. What even is combat patrol? I frankly have never heard of it. And the other thing GW seems to love to do when painting their Chaos Space Marines is to paint the point where the trim meets the ceramite. I'm talking about the armor here. They like to edge highlight that intersection, and it's like I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but I don't know if I like it either. I don't know how the general community feels about that. Asbak NL, welcome to the stream. Did you see the new lore regarding the Terminus Decree? Oh no, I have not. Lay it on me, Asbak. Emperor's Champion says they would have to do specific maps with terrain just like Spearhead. Otherwise, the games turn into who shoots harder. Indeed. And that was the horror story that was relayed to me by a buddy. Like, I do think certain armies in any game system should just be They should operate as they do in lore, for better or for worse. That's my sensibility on rules design in general. Right? Like if you're Imperial Guard, what's a better example? If you're Genestealer cults and you're facing off against the Adeptus Custodes, you shouldn't just be engaging in a straight trading game, because that should be suicide. You should just get wrecked. It should turn into a cat and mouse run away and just try and score where you can and decapitate something cheekily. That's what the game should turn into for the Genestealer Cults player. I don't like this design we find ourselves in presently, where it's like, oh, I'm fighting the Custodes, I guess I'm just gonna play as I normally do and put units on objectives and leave them out there to score on my next command phase. And it just feels weird. Something about it hits a weird intuition for me. Misfit, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Asbak says, I posted a photo from the Grey Knights Codex in your Discord. Well, let me see if I can find it. Where'd you put it, though? That's the real... in the lounge? In the lounge? Ah, so it is. Okay, let's see. Maybe I'll put this on stream. We can read it together. Uh-oh. Not there. Over here. And I should be able to load this up like this. Oh wait, hold on. What's this? Okay, no, we're good. The Terminus Decree, held in a simple wooden box that only the Supreme Grand Master may open, the Terminus Decree details the Emperor's final command to the Grey Knights chapter. The Master of Mankind can never be allowed to leave the Golden Throne, either return to life, reborn in another's body, or ascend as some kind of warp entity. And if he does, the Grey Knights must return him to his terrible duty. Indeed, they were created with the possibility of this event in mind, a task beyond the abilities of any other force in the Imperium. The decree offers no guidance on how such feats might be achieved, for it is neither a weapon nor a magic formula. Rather, the Grey Knights would themselves be the weapon on such a desperate day, one that would likely have to cut a path through the ranks of the Custodian Guard and many others to see its duty done. Okay, so, Asbak, I am not a Grey Knight expert. I have never claimed to know every facet of the lore, so you'd have to break down for me what the change is here. Is it the bit about returning and the terrible duty therein? It's a weird key to dangle narratively and thematically. Why would the Emperor not tell the Custodes this too? Why would he not tell everyone who would get in the way of the terrible duty, so that it isn't that much harder if he wants it done? It seems kind of stupid. Right? So they'd all be on the same page. If it's threat level midnight, and the Emperor's ascending and he needs to be put back on his chair, let's say, and that's what he wants, allegedly, why would he not set things in place with everybody so they can cooperate and actually do it? See, this is where, if my understanding is correct, this is where I get like annoyed and I start to roll my eyes at how the lore is handled sometimes. Even old lore is fair game. Oh yeah, there's my reference. Look at that charming Khorne Berserker. What a charming Khorne Berserker he is. I mean, this guy's going to turn out to be fairly charming, I think. I really like this this helmet. It's I don't know if it's trying to evoke the Corrin iconography, but I like the skull motif in the mouth, in the box grill. Super cool. Aspect says, basically it was a last hope decree and no one knew anything about it. Okay, so the context has now been revealed. The terrible duty. They've been kind of dangling in the background of new lore this idea the Emperor will ascend, and this feeds into that considerably. I just wonder, like, what are the... There's just that's such an upsetting lore change. If the Emperor is an active actor in the galaxy, it's even worse. It's even worse than Primarchs coming back. I think the whole framing of the universe is kind of weakened, and Primarchs coming back, they're such superlative like drivers of agency and influence in the world that wherever they go, they make things happen. And so if the Emperor gets off his throne, I can't help but feel nothing will happen and it'll be made stupid. That is my suspicion. In before 40k end times, yeah, pretty much. And maybe the Emperor will ascend, become a different entity altogether, like that bit of text suggests, and he'll be weaker somehow. You know, kind of like he's back to level 1, like a prestige in a video game. You know, he's strong. He's got the experience that comes from being max level before, but he's back to level 1. Maybe that's how they'll do it. And they'll be like, oh, okay, so technically he's back, but he's not as strong as he used to be, and now it's like the Custodians have a Primarch too, which is lame, even as I say it out loud. I kind of just don't want the Custodians to be on the tabletop at this point. That's where I find myself. I find myself not even wanting them around. You know, maybe in a game like Kill Team, you have 3 of them, and they're just bosses. No, maybe you have 2. Maybe you have 2 who are absolute bosses. Or maybe just 1 who's an absolute boss, and like 4 Sisters of Silence that he rolls with. And it's the Talons of the Emperor little Kill Team. I think that's the only capacity I kind of enjoy seeing Custodians on the tabletop. You need to preserve their majesty, how mighty they are, right? I think when you have a whole army of them and they die, and it just feels lame to me. Feels narratively, what's the word? Ludonarrative dissonance. That's what it feels like. Feels like, what is this? Wacky inflatable. It's a such a mouthful. Whack inflatable arm flailing tube man says, I feel like Guilliman should have died in Dark Imperium Godblight. Well, he was certainly set up to, and then he got the old plot armor, Deus Ex Machina, and the Emperor literally resurrected him from death, because he was basically dead. If I recall correctly, anyways. Now, I do like what that series does for Guilliman, from a narrative POV, from his character arc point of view. Him wrestling with the Emperor's divinity, I think, is a compelling topic. And the Imperium that he finds himself in at large is also compelling. And I guess the Emperor's divinity is part of that. So that all works for me, right? I do like that, despite a large portion of that book being just bolter schlock. Or even that series. But there is some thematic rich parts there. Some good themes. It does feel pretty good. I remember enjoying him berating Frater Matthew. I remember that was very, very much enjoyable. That's good. See, the best parts with Primarchs for me aren't even... It's not about them fighting and being cool guys. It's about them getting into interesting conversations, as weird as that sounds. Emperor's Champion says they belong in Horus Heresy and nowhere else. I guess that's with regards to Custodes. Yes. Yeah, well, see, in the Horus Heresy, well, like, the culmination of that is the Siege of Terra, so that makes sense that they would be involved, obviously. But also, Horus Heresy is a game system. At least it was a game system. I can't speak for third. First and second edition Horus Heresy was a game system where it was narrative first. I think that's safe to say. And so you could have them just be really OP. And because everyone knows they're OP and out of balance, nobody would play them unless they were doing something narrative. That is the understanding I've been led to believe. It's all secondhand, though, so if it's false, please feel free to chime in and correct the record. Okay, so that fist is awfully red. I mean, not awfully. It's the right amount of red, but everything else is out of whack. I think that metal cabling can probably just all be metal color. Hammer Thor says, lore-wise, Custodes can take out hordes of enemies by themselves. They shouldn't be on the tabletop. That's how OP they are in lore. Yeah, that's how they should be. It's a wicked problem to try and make them functional on the tabletop. Not worth it, in my opinion. It feels bad if they're lore accurate. But then at the same time, if they are on the conventional battlefield, you know, at scale, they are going to be more vulnerable to tools which can just mass slaughter, right? A whole army of Custodes are on this battlefield? Well, I guess we're going to deploy virus bombs, right? Things that anything would be vulnerable to. They really feel best used as a scalpel, a precision instrument, which is why I like them in the kill team scenario, right? You send a small group, an elite squad, a few Sisters of Battle to keep Psychic in check, and it allows the Custodes to go to work, and they take out, you know, tip of the spear style, take out the enemy warlord, and take out some annoying upstart exalted champion. who's accruing a bit too much power in a sector, that kind of thing. That feels the most right use case. I don't like seeing them marching en masse, unless it's like the second Siege of Terra. Unless it's a Siege of Terra, basically. It just feels way too risky to just deploy them around like that. They're just too valuable. And in turn, too potent. And I think from a lore point of view, the writers acknowledge this. Like, so I haven't read every entry in the Dawn of Fire series, but I think the Dawn of Fire series, while flawed, is the best example of current lore and how things are being handled and positioned. I mean, of the books in that series I've read, I think I'm 2 books behind. Yeah, because I think they're at book 10, and I think I read up to book 8. That seems right. But anyways, every time a custodian is involved in the Crusade fleet, in the various books, which all focus on different areas of the Indominus Crusade, it's always just one. It's just like a small group. I think maybe with... in the Wolf Time, you get a... Well, no more than 3, let's say. And that's only because I think in the Wolf Time... Terrible book, by the way. Just the worst. I think that particular custodian was... I mean, I can't remember his name. It's the same guy from Dark Imperium. The real grumpy custodian who gets paired off with Guilliman. That guy, obviously, he's with Guilliman and other custodians, and they're having conversations about concerns, etc. So obviously he's talking to a few other custodians. But typically in those books, it's just one. Just, oh, this is the one custodian in this battle group. His impact and consultation is like of paramount value. Just what an asset to have him around. Or have them on the tabletop, but give them the Titans treatment, where they are incredibly busted, but incredibly overpriced. Yeah, that's an option. So it's like Horus Heresy, where they're so expensive that everyone knows they're busted, and they only get brought out because someone wants to do something narrative and cool, and everyone's down to see the Custodians win. Only used in Apocalypse Plus sort of games, which would be naturally fitting for the Custodians to take part in. Yeah, it's kind of like Primarchs. Really, Primarchs shouldn't be. Primarchs should only be in, like, 4,000 point games. Right? They should be real forces of nature. They should be like Titans. They are being toned down for where the game wants power levels to be. Which is low across the board, right? Because GW wants a game with lots of models being bought. Compare it to like one-page rules. That's the best example, right? You have a game system that just has so fewer models on a tabletop. Like in one-page rules, it's been a minute since I've played it. But a Land Raider is like 1,000 points. Like, it's a big fucking deal, right? As it should be, I would argue. Big deal. Oh, it's a freaking Land Raider. What's 10 Terminators? It's like 800 points. There's 10 guys in Terminator plate from the first company. The Terminator points reference, I'm less confident on, but I think you guys get what I mean. I think it's safe to say GW operates with things being a bit weaker than they should be so they can have more models on the tabletop. Just my 2 cents. Emperor's Champion says, as mostly a Heresy player, yeah, you bring them when it makes sense for a themed fight. Okay, so my intuition, my understanding is I feel a bit more confident now. Thanks for that, Emperor's Champion. I mean, if the Emperor's Champion is saying it, who am I? Who am I to say otherwise? I need more of this pure red. Now for the bunny ears, I think I want to have a gradient because it is a large, flat surface. It's near the face, and you want good visual interest, right? So probably would benefit from a little bit of extra love. I feel like this gradient looks like trash. We're gonna have to probably build up a few more layers. Seeing how expensive units could be in Classic 40k, 3rd through 7th, was pretty staggering for my Zoomer brain, especially when including things like grenades and specialized war gear. Yep, I've been led to believe that understanding is true. Misfit says, I ordered some legs for my Sagittars from the Station Forge Scavenger Tank. 2 sets of them. Legs for Sagittars. You know what, Misfit? I think I know the... Funnily enough, I think I saw that STL the other day. Very cool conversion piece. Definitely makes them feel like weird Xenos tech. Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of less is more on the tabletop, especially for the elite armies, right? Because then you have just a more cinematic throwdown when Space Marines face off against a Tyranid swarm. Because there's very few of them. Feels good. Because, you know, these are Space Marines. They're a big deal. Getting some nice reds, that's for sure. Misfit says, I'm also giving thought to putting wheels on my Pioneers. Oh, thank God. Look, I cut the Xenos section out of my summer preview video, and I just kept it on Space Marines. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the Votann Grav aesthetic. It's a bit too like it's too much like the Jetsons or something. Like there's something weird. It's very like Art Deco. I don't very PT Cruiser. You know, I'm just not into it. It's not my bag, man. But if they had wheels, that's pretty cool. Or even grav plates. Or some, I don't know. It doesn't have to be grav plates. I mean, grav plates would be a good idea for Votann, but they gave that to Space Marines, so... And it's not really available. They have to give the Votann that weird Hoover aesthetic. I feel like I had more to say on the points discussion, but it has eluded me. Hammer Thor says PT Cruiser was one of the worst cars ever made. I can't help but laugh. I'm glad to hear I'm not alone in my opinions. Yeah, it's an aesthetic for a certain type, and I am not that type. And that type is lame. That's what it is. There, I said it. I said what everyone was thinking. I am a seeker of truth. This shoulder pad has so much... It's going to be annoying to paint all this trim. I should have chosen a different one. That's closer to a gradient I like. We'll have to see. Paragon of Paint, welcome to the stream. Hey, what are we talking about? This was some Robloxian gamer. Just had a name change. Oh, congratulations on the name change. We're talking about a great many things. We're making fun of PT Cruisers, which was fun. But I'm talking about points. Points cost in older editions had so much fewer models on the tabletop. I was speaking to an example in one-page rules. One-page rules definitely has the spirit and bones of that older classic 40k, that 3rd to 7th. You can definitely feel some of that in there. I think so, anyways. I mean, the reason we're making fun of PT Cruisers was because of the Votann Sagittar hover aesthetic. Not Sagittar. Pioneers. The Pioneer hover aesthetic. It's very Art Deco-ish. I don't know. Maybe it's not. It's not the right design term to use. It's weird. I'll say that it's weird. It might not technically be Art Deco. You mentioned one-page rules earlier. I really like how units can be properly expensive depending on their lethality. Oh, points! Yeah, points for war gear. Who would have thought? Yeah, it should matter, right? If you give your unit a... If you give all your men plasma weapons, they should be more expensive. Go figure. Yeah, GW has slowly but surely, they're circumventing that problem away by just not having war gear. Right? Oh, you want plasma gun Space Marines? Well, that means you want Hellblasters. You're not looking for a special weapons team or a Devastator squad. Which is super lame, because thematically, the more you subdivide Space Marines, the weaker the power fantasy feels. Whereas before, the paradigm was, oh, all heavy weapons, Devastator squad, pick your weapon. You need assault weapons, you go with the assault squad. Right? Pick your weapon. Well, not quite. They were kind of a melee tool. So it's a bad example. There should have been a special weapons squad. But my point is, the old paradigm was Devastator squad, assault squad, tactical squad. And within that, you kind of have your tactical options covered between heavy weapons for various needs and close support for various needs. Then you have your bikers, land speeders. It wasn't crazy, right? You have these supporting pieces. But because you had this versatile platform approach, it really came across and better sold the thematic idea that Space Marines were adaptable, and that's all they need, right? Literally, that's all they need. The armory is there, they're so good, they're so skilled, no problem. Now, in subdividing and creating so many specialist groups of, try not to swear, so many stupid groups, you weaken that theme of how adaptable and how much efficacy they have innately. It's a small distinction, like on paper you could say, but I think thematically it's quite significant. Quite significant. I'm going to be... I'm very curious to see the fallout of this Horus Heresy 3.0 War Gear upset. Because I don't know if GW will pivot. Because, look, if they do pivot and change their paradigm, which isn't impossible, right? They changed to come here, to get to this point, rather. If they do change the paradigm and go back to what made them successful initially, what made the game enjoyable initially, the hobby, let's say, and bring War Gear back and bring kits with options back, that sort of thing. You know, it should be praised, right? Because they're making changes based on what people actually want. But it is kind of amusing to me if they bring back the tactical squad. It's like, oh, here it is. Remember the thing? Remember the thing we said was lame when Primaris came out? That was stupid? Well, no, here they are. They're actually good, though. We remembered they're actually good. I'm going to struggle not to have a rant and make fun of them for it. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. Part of me says, yeah, you should reward behavior you want more of, right? But part of me wants to be vindictive and say never forget. I'll have to think about that. It's a bit of an odd one. Okay, I feel like most of the weak spots of the Reds are... okay, no, there's a few more weak spots. A few weak spots. How long have we been going for? Oh, an hour 20, eh? basically spent reddening this guy. And there was a bit of time spent on the Emperor's Children. The Emperor's Children Marine I have. Eric Brandenburg, welcome to the stream. Says, at with the 40k, I finally finished my Terminator Librarian. Very nice. I can't recall, is that the Indomitus? Not Indomitus. Leviathan Terminator? With all the sigils. All the runic wardings. That guy should have been like a Grey Knight Terminator. Actually, he should have been a Chaos Terminator. Let's be real. Let's be real. Those runes are the same runes on the Chaos Space Marines datasheet. Seems chaos to me. New tactical squad box and send intercessors to legends. Jesus Christ. Wacky inflatable. Tube, man, you're killing me. That would... Look, principally, I think that's the right path. And you could still use your intercessor models as... whatever, no one's taken a special weapon option. So it's fine. They're back to tacticals, right? You're just using the models for something else. But God, does it hit a hidden intuition for me. I hate that. Is sending models to legends. I mean, maybe that one they get away with because, yeah, you can just use your models and just say they're an intercessor squad. They're battle line anyways. It's just so stupid to come full circle. Like GW with their innovative, their innoventions, right? Their stupid innoventions. To come around and be like, oh, tactical squad is so stupid. Here's the intercessor squad. It's so much better. And they've made it so because of, well, they have the writer's hand for the purpose of rules. But you know that if they bring back the tactical squad, they're probably going to be what's preferred. And it'll be sold and jangled with nostalgia, and I'm going to hate it out of spite for that. It's so manipulative. Custom datasheets are helpful to circumvent aspect marines, but it's not quite the same. Yeah, you can have a custom datasheet to reformulate the aspect marines of Primaris back into the more tasteful... classic template of fire support, close support, and battle line. Hellblasters and Infernus Marines can sort of be justified since they're basically just Horse Heresy tactical support squads. Yeah, I think you could very easily take the Primaris template and have a heavy support, close support, and assault or special weapon team, heavy weapon team, and tactical squad is how I would frame it. Then you have your jump pack option, your non-jump pack option for your close support, and Phobos is a bit of a wrench because that's such a different edition, which is why in part I like it a bit more than all the various subtypes of special weapon teams as different units on their own. But you could consolidate a fair bit of them. Infiltrators and cursors, and maybe even reavers could all be the same unit with different war gear. And eliminators are just weird because they're 3-man teams. But just the odd 3-man team, I don't mind. Kind of like the Centurion Devastator. It's just a hyper-specialized use case. So yeah, 3-man team, sure, whatever. Flamelord says, what's more Nightmare Fuel looking? A Flood-infected Space Marine or a Necromorph Space Marine. Or a symbiote infected Space Marine. Symbiotes are cooler than scary, in my opinion. I want to go to Necromorph Space Marine. Basically dealing with a mutilator, right? If Necromorph... Necromorphs are from Dead Space? Am I recalling correctly? Wacky Inflatable Floodman says... Wacky Inflatable Arm... Wacky Inflatable... you know what? Screw it. Wacky Inflatable Man says... Flood easily. I can understand that. Let's take a look at the poll. Look, Never's taken the top spot, 53. Very interdasting. Very interdasting, okay. How many votes is this? 19, okay. Okay, it's a little small little sample size, but I'll take it. Yeah, we're gonna bump up the value of these bunny ears. I think it'll look good for it. Thor says, yes, that is Dead Space. Nice. I understood that reference. Wacky Inflatable Man says, I envy the 53%. So harsh. Harsh but fair. Oh, jeez. Harsh but fair. Yeah, I want to take a stab at trying to make Comet Patrol enticing. Or maybe not enticing, but decent? I mean, that seems doable. The bar is so low, which is makes it easier. Certainly makes it easier. Gotta mix some black into this corn red to try and push the gradient at the bottom here. Then come back in with the corn red. Hammer Thor says, also, what brand of brushes do you use? Well, Hammer Thor. This is a Golden Maple Master 1 Finest Sable brush. I have a discount code and affiliate link with them. So if you want to support the channel and save some money on some brushes, you can use my link and code. Should be in the description. I also have a YouTube short with the information as well. But I'm pretty sure it auto pastes when I create the streams. Pretty, like 90% sure that's the case. But if it's not, you can check the YouTube short should it be of interest. I do think I can get away with this armor at this point. Don't think there's any jarring weak spots. Maybe. I mean, if it's still dark, edge highlighting will rescue those areas. Maybe this flat panel here on the back of the collar. Just add a bit of brighter red to get a better change in value. These look good, pretty red. Pretty red. Black inflatable arm man says, my hope is GW leaves Combat Patrol behind and just copies Spearhead into 40k. Yeah, Spearhead is a fundamentally better experience. And as I alluded to earlier, as we all discovered together, it does seem like Combat Patrol in 10th edition is riding the corpse, or is built out of the corpse of 9th edition's mission structure, which hurts it immensely. Compared to Spearhead. We've already seen bits of Spearhead's mechanics being pulled into 40k, because the gambits, or whatever they're called now in the new mission pack, are essentially the battle tactics from Spearhead, just applied in a different use case. More of a rubber band mechanic for the mission cards, whereas in Spearhead they are the primary mission, which I find works fairly well. And it creates a cleaner system where you're not dealing with the stratagem CP economy in such a small scale. Like Spearhead's, Combat Patrol's so screwed in that regard. Having to deal with CP for your toolkit and the core stratagems is just bad. I think even in 40k broadly compared to AOS 4.0 broadly, having so much of your special tools, your iconic moves, so to speak, based in stratagems, creates too much infighting with your CP, with your available CP, with the core stratagems, because the core stratagems are too good. And fair enough, on one hand you could argue that having that choice is like, oh well, now I have to make a tactical decision, very interesting. But if mortal wounds are so valuable, and they are, that I'm better off using grenades every turn than my Salamander's Flamer boosting stratagem, then what's the point of my special thing, right? And that's where I get annoyed with 40k's design space in 10th edition, because it's like, yeah, stratagems have always had issues since we've had them, but it's a little extra annoying because the core stratagems now are so good. They're so essential. Whereas in AOS 4.0, they are essential, but they're not... They don't take away from what your special thing is for your army, because those are all locked on like a cooldown base of once per battle, once per turn, that sort of thing, typically. Sometimes, like, you'll have a stratagem, like the Stormcast Eternals have a stratagem in their special toolkit, but it's a once per battle stratagem, and it's like to get a unit back. Which, it's just a much better paradigm. Like, the more I look at AOS, it's like, that's just better. Just better. Hate to say it, but it sucks to suck. Misfit says, I think Combat Patrol needs a Spearhead redo. I'm thinking about it, Misfit. I'm thinking about it. I may dabble with it. I did enjoy the process of the extermination mode, and, you know, I hosted it at my local game store this past weekend, and it was enjoyed again. But I might look into this Spearhead, this Combat Patrol Plus. No, CPP sounds lame. Sounds too much like China. I don't like that. Gotta find a better name. Some form of improved Combat Patrol. Might be a fun endeavor. Omegon's twin, I'm so late. Let's go! Welcome, Omegon's twin. It's okay if you're late. Look, the Alpha Legion are always late. It's kind of their thing, so it's kind of cool. Kind of cool that you're late. I don't hate it. What are we working on today? Assorted Chaos Space Marines. A Berserker at the moment. I don't know if I want to get into metals. Might stick with non-metal painting today, so I'll probably avoid. CGW wants to paint all the cloths and accessories black, but I don't quite like that. I think I like the blue. And you know what? That's because I like the Crimson Slaughter scheme. And the Crimson Slaughter scheme is, it's World Eaters but better. I'm just going to say it. They just look better. Right? Am I just remembering fondly? Let me do some Google foo here. Crimson Slaughter. Am I misremembering? I thought they had blue accents. What was the name of that box? Dark Vengeance? Dark Vengeance. Oh man, I might just be misremembering. Well, they have a bit of blue. More blue than the World Eaters. It just helps balance out how red the World Eaters color scheme is. Here, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. See? Okay, so Reddit's annoying because it doesn't like to zoom in. It's so stupid. But yeah, look, you can see some blue on the cape here, and on some of the, it's very difficult to see, but on some of the mutated elements, they're also blue. I just think it helps balance out that red and brass look compared to, like, look, this is nice, but that plasma gun right here is doing a lot of balance work for this aesthetic. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with a cool color for the cloth. Weapon casing, probably white. I'm definitely a sucker for white weapon casings, huh? I just can't help myself. I'm always just trying to justify white weapon casings. Misfit says, oh, Thou Mods Zoe, welcome to the stream. Looks good so far. Thank you very much. Misfit says, I dropped a Pioneer pick into the Manufactorum with some wheels blue tacked in place. Would be interested in your thoughts. Ignore the half-changed paint job. No problem. Yeah, I like to take a look at those kind of conversions. Excuse me. Okay, open link, and then tab over. Ah, okay, so here we are. Let me unenhance, so you can see it. Okay, so yeah, it is trike based, so you can't get away from that. I need a better angle to get a real sense of the conversion. But yeah, putting wheels on. I like it more than the Hoover look, I'll say that. I'm not a huge fan of trikes, but I try to temper my desire to be #cool on everything I look at and use, so maybe you can embrace the trike. Look, I like it more than the Hoover plates. The weird Hoover pads. Omegon's twin says, will we get to see that pretty alpha Legionnaire? I love the way you paint them. I have him here. He's a handsome boy, that's for sure. There he is. Still needs a shoulder pad. I'm working on it. Yeah, look at him. He's beautiful. It's shiny. Everyone loves shiny things, right? Like, if you have an army that looks like this, just with, and it's just it's just one layer of paint. But normies gush over this kind of paint job. They'll rate this paint, this army that looks like this, way higher than this, and the amount of effort that goes into the gradients and the layering is just like, this is better painted for sure. But it's like, oh, shiny. Oh, the color is shifting. Oh my god, it's so good. And that's what happens with when you go to an event. When you go to an event and they judge best painted by just like their staff they have there volunteering, just like moms. Just no offense to mothers. They just have people out of the hobby, is my point, just acting as judges. They'll judge that Alpha Legion as like, oh, that's the best painted one here. It's so shiny. The allure of shiny things, right? Misfit says the Space Marine bike wheel on the front is what fits. I mean, if that's what fits, then you have to use that. And I don't think it's... See, like, orc conversions can get away from weird size differences. But when you have... Like, even with motorcycles, and I'm not a rider, you know, I don't have the spirit of the Ghost Rider within me. So I don't ride motorcycles, but even just what I've seen driving around, it's pretty common to see a wider tire in the back. So maybe that's fine for the trike you have there, Misfit. Seems fine to me. You know, more traction or whatever, right? That makes sense. More grip. Gotta increase the gripular capacity in the rear. So you have bigger tires. Inflatable Arm Man says, I used Vallejo Gunmetal Blue on some Marines. I ended up hating the scheme, but my wife swears up and down it looks great. See? See? The uninitiated love shiny, shiny models. I'm just a hater. I'm definitely not speaking from a place where I've been jaded by such an experience. Not at all. Not at all. Definitely haven't gone to an event with very nicely painted, an army of nicely painted and converted individual models. And every model is just like to the tits. Converted and green stuffed with scale cloaks. And then lost best painted to an army of greater demons that essentially won best painted because they were the largest things that were painted in different colors. And therefore were best painted. Crazy to me. Crazy. Misfit says, I think one thing that could look cool would be a third-party kit to turn Pioneers into sci-fi gyrocopters. Interesting. I don't hate the idea of the Pioneers on these grav bikes. I think it's just the Hoover plate, man. It's not into it. Is this gray or is this brown alive? Is this brown alive? Let's see if I can resurrect it. I actually don't like this brown at all for As a leather color for this armor, I think it's very poor. It's a poor choice. Unfortunately, this model doesn't have a blue cloth or a cloth element hanging down his legs like you see on some Chaos Space Marines, because that would go a long way if I could balance out the scheme that way. We could have blue cloth on the weapon handle. It's an option. Oh, you know what? Khorne, or the World Eater's Example wants these red. But do we want them red, really? Those are red, this is black. I don't know if I want those black. But if we keep these black, then we keep the focus of red on the helmet. Yeah, so actually we're going to keep those black. We're going to make these silver. That's how it's going to be. We can use this drab of gray or brown for these spikes. These little trophy spikes. Because they'll be wood, and this is a good wood color. Not a good leather color. I mean, as a leather color, it'd be okay on something like a yellow, like an Imperial Fist. Holster, maybe. Hammer Thor. Thank you very much for the super chat. I'm going to give it a heart. That seems like a thing to do because I appreciate it. And is there a message to read? How do we super chat? Well, look, no message, but I appreciate the $5. Thank you, Hammer Thor. Oh my God, someone says my models are better kit bashed than painted. That's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's in reference to the anecdote I shared from that event I was at, I can say, obviously, I'm favoring my army, but I think I can be objective and say, my shit was better painted also. Look, my Salamander's vehicles are... I'm not one to brag, okay, but I think they look very nice. I think they look good. Certainly better than the example from that story, where it was just the greater demons painted in different colors, and it wasn't like... It wasn't bad. It was like... It was just a bit like painted like someone new to the hobby, let's say. That's all. It's not the best. I wouldn't say it was GW parade ready. Let's put it that way. It was somewhere in between battle ready and that. They were just big models with each one being a different color. Like, you need to be... You need to have a discerning eye and be a painter to judge a painting competition, in my opinion. You can't just be a normie, someone outside of the hobby. I was actually a judge for a painting competition for that local event that featured my extermination mode, and yeah, like, the three of us were all painters, we're all in the hobby, and we deliberated. Like, we tried to give it as fair of a do as possible for... You gotta do right by the people who are entering, you know? Oh yeah, that's a good spot. Right there, that edge, that lip of the back of the gorget, if that's what it's called, the back of the collar. Damn, this is... Yeah, that side won't matter as much. But this side is super good spot. Definitely want to bump that value up. It's high visibility. That's what we call that. Flame Lord says, I was in the pet store the other day and saw a lizard roaming around. I thought it escaped. I asked the manager, was this one of yours? She said no, and I released it outside on a tree. It's a random lizard in a store, huh? Well, it's a pet store. Fair question. I don't know if I'd pick up a random lizard. Maybe if it was cute, like one of those, what are they called? Those, I was gonna say bearded dragon, but that's not what I'm thinking of. Whatever those Monster Hunter looking guys that bite their own tail, those ones. Maybe I'd pick up that, but I don't know if I'd pick up a. If it's shiny, I don't want to pick it up. What if you get pimples? What if you get hand herpes, you know? Because you're picking up toads. Warts. That's the word I'm looking for. Warts. What if you get warts? You don't want that. Flame Lord says the lizard was small and not venomous. Ah, well, if you have the discerning eye, then it's the right call. Okay, maybe we will shift over to some. Oh, let's do more base coating. We can build the Death Guard guy. Here's a Death Guard guy. He is a bit more reserved than your typical Plague Marine because he's built out of a Chaos Space Marine. I've drilled in some holes around to give him more of a pocked kind of armor look. And I think he's more tasteful, dare I say, more evocative of the classic aesthetic of a Plague Marine. He's not really bloated, though. But can't help that. That would require a bit more conversion work, which I'm not really looking to do. I'm looking for a Death Guard paint I have here. Nope, not this. I have Castellan. Oh, here. Look, it's called Death Guard Green. It's got to be the right one. Flame Lord is from Cajun country. Love it. Omegon's Twin says, out with the 40k, I posted your Alpha Legion scheme compared to mine in the Manufactorum. I think your brighter color scheme looks a lot better for the Legion. Interesting. I'll take a look. Well, I mean, I can share it here. So, look, I'm very amenable to the way GW, like, this is more... Is this a metallic paint? Actually, it looks metallic. I thought it was maybe just your usual acrylic paints, but it looks like a metallic paint. So I'm amenable to this aesthetic, and I do think the Alpha Legion armies benefit from a variety of tones and versions of them. Kind of fits the lore if everyone's Alpha Legion looks a little bit different, right? From a meta sense, I think that's cool. But I don't think this is a bad color to use. Omegon's Twin. It's I've definitely seen artwork like this kind of blue. Reminds me of, I can't remember the novel's name, but I've seen Alpha Legion novel cover art that looks more similar to this blue. And I've also seen them looking like this too, so you know, it's all Alpha Legion at the end of the day. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Eric Brandenburg says lizard tails are tasty. Is that like beaver tails? Is that like a food that is not what it sounds to be, but named after something that it looks like? That was terrible phrasing. Is it a food named after an aesthetic rather than what it is? Because beaver tails are tasty, but they're not made of beaver tails. Okay, I'm going to water down this Death Guard green, because I do want to do a sloppy application on this guy, and I think that benefits the Death Guard vibe. I think you got to embrace the mess. You got to give it a messy painting process. And you can clean up some areas here and there, but for the most part, I think you want to paint, might as well add some texture while you're painting, is the rough idea. I could put some base colors down on the Thousand Suns guy, who I think he's the only one. Him and actually the Word Bearer have no paint. No paint at all. Eric Brandenburg says, no, actual lizard tails. It's not like the sweetbreads or head cheese. Okay. Now I know. Omegon's twin says, the bright one is so fun to look at. Oh, for the color schemes? Yeah, that's the shiny appeal. It's, it allures the lizard brain or the monkey brain, depending on your persuasion, I guess. How deep you want to make the reference. Okay, we'll let that dry, and then we're going to hit this with the Earth Shade. I think that's the right one to use. The Earth Shade. And Thousand Suns guy. Oh, he's also shoulderless, unfortunately. Oh, he has one shoulder. The classic. The classic Chaos Space Marine Tzeentch shoulder. What an honor this warrior has received. Unfortunately, I used the Slaanesh one on a different model, or else I would have given it to our Emperor's Children guy. So for the... probably don't want Cantor blue. You probably want Temple Guard. That's very Thousand Suns-ish. And a base color... I don't know, maybe... Stegodon scale? It is rich. It's high saturation, I mean. Flamelord says, I heard it tastes like chicken. Unfortunately, I don't eat any alligator meat. Oh my God, Twin says, are you going to pay the Thousand Suns red or blue? It's going to be blue. 100% blue. These are well, they're not, I was going to say chapter exemplars. They're Legion exemplars, so I want them to evoke the looks of their respective legions. Well, I say that, but Emperor's Children I kind of deviated. But I'm trying to evoke the classic Noise Marine. Like, I actually have a picture of it. Let me see if I can get it for you guys. I have it saved. I have it saved because I just think it's such a good classic look. Let me just tab it over. Pop that in there. Wait, where is it? Here. This aesthetic. I adore this Slaanesh Chaos Space Marine. It's perfect. It's so good. So that's kind of like the richness I want to try to emulate. You can see what I mean when I say it's like a Dark Angels / Crimson Fist heavy metal paint job with that deep dark purple and double highlight. This is just chef's kiss. Tremendous. So that's what I was kind of going with, or that's what I'm aiming towards. Still trying to get there. Because, you know, not quite. I think the helmet's fine, but yeah, while I darkened the armor, I think it could go darker, honestly. There is a bell curve to taste like chicken. There is a bell curve, and both ends taste like chicken. Nice. Quite possibly. Omegon Princess Small Marine. Yeah, it's an old noise, or not noise marine. It's an old Chaos Space Marine of Slaanesh, but it is peak as far as Slaanesh colorization goes. As far as I'm concerned, anyways. I think that's about as good as it gets. I'm not exactly a fan of GW's choice to characterize them as the Pink and Black Legion. Yeah, that's just a noise. It's not a noise marine. It's an Emperor's Children, or it's a Chaos Space Marine of Slaanesh. And that's something else I feel like fundamentally, like I totally disagree with GW's route in subdividing the Chaos Space Marines and making the 4 God-marked ones, the betterer ones. But like they have a good template for that in Age of Sigmar, and I feel like it's a square peg round hole situation in doing that to the Chaos Space Marine Legions, because now they have created haves and have-nots on both sides, because now you've screwed over those specialized legions and taking away their ranges. And then you've also just made it pretty clear that the other Chaos Space Marines are lesser than, because of that lack of support. It's just a terrible idea. Terrible route to go, in my opinion. They should have kept them all as one, I think. Chaos Space Marines or Chaos Space Marines. You can give special characters to the God-marked ones. Even special units like Khorne Berserkers and, you know, Arena Champions. Not 8-bound, obviously. 8-bound's a terrible idea. Why? I mean, why would you do 8-bound? It's so stupid. Why would you do that? Yeah, you know, Thousand Suns can have Psyker, robots, Zangors, all fine. I just think I think the supplement route is the correct one. And then when you do expand Chaos as an alliance, it does actually feel larger for it, because you're getting Dark Mechanicum, you're getting Space Skaven, you're getting proper Renegades and Heretics. Or Chaos Guard, rather. You can get Chaos Sisters of Battle. Or you can even have Chaos Votan. Well, maybe that's what they should have been all along. I don't know. His chaos feels so small in 40k. Too small. Actually, what are the stripes? Yellow and blue? Or are they... How does 1,000 Suns look? We're going to have to wrap up the stream soon, guys. I didn't realize the time. Yes, the hood, the helmet strips are yellow and blue. Okay, so we're gonna have to apply this color on every other one. Yeah, I'll need to source out a shoulder pad for this guy. At some point I will. I'm also leaning towards red flames because I do think it looks better with the armor. And I would like to keep green glowing stuff as the design feature for our word bearers guy in the squad. Because that's how I like my word bearers. I think they should be the most malefic of the lot. I think it's fairly reasonable. Something GW seems to have forgotten. Seem to have forgotten that about the word bearers. Whack Inflatable Armman says, also World Eaters are an objectively bad army and are not worth it. I like World Eaters, but I don't like how they are now. In 10th edition, them and Emperor's Children are just so weird. They have minimum viable product army ranges. Why even give them a range? Why even make them an army? If you only have... Like, just imagine... If we still had Force Org, the amount of factions that... Well, it's really just World Eaters. Votent's getting a fill-in soon, but... Yeah, if there was Force Org, dude, World Eaters, Emperor's Children, like, no options. Like, one, maybe two in some of the slots. That's it. This is utterly embarrassing. That's one of the reasons why I'm convinced Force Org isn't going to come back. As much as some people want to believe. You know, like, the two popular things I find people talking around the water cooler, let's say, would be Force Org and War Gear points coming back. And I don't know if either will. I think Force Org not being there allows GW to sell excesses of products, right? Because the constraints are off on list building. Just 3 of every product, potentially, right? Is what's up for consideration if there's no Force Org. And if Force Org is on the table, you basically don't have that luxury anymore. People are they're gonna have those constraints to work within, which is why it makes it for a better game system, because constraints are good. But not for GW's bottom line. And for War Gear, I personally think GW doesn't like having to manage all those data points. That's my suspicion. I think they've wanted to avoid points and switch to power for years, and they basically did that. At the start of 10th edition, I said it. They've switched to points and called it power. I believe I was like one of the first people to say that. Or sorry, they switched to power and call it points. Because they don't want to manage, like, I feel like they they don't want to manage the game system. They don't want to do the work, right? So we'll erase the lines between sub-factions, so every army is now less discouraged, less shamed to not play the detachment of their choice. And then we can just really manage around the one. We just manage around win percentages, not what factions need support. Or sub-factions, rather. Imperial Fists have shit rules that are utter trash. Doesn't matter. You can just play Gladius Task Force. You can play Ironstorm Spearhead. Doesn't matter. They're just names. They're just names, okay? Nothing to do with factions at all. I have utter contempt for this handling of rules. Terrible. Just terrible. I do think we want this to be blue. Oh God, why is it so loud? I guess this whole icon would be gold. They painted gold on the heavy metal paint job, but it looks kind of bad. You lose readability. All gold. They're using green fire. I'm not going to use green fire. We're going to go blue. Blue for Tzeentch, right? That's fair game. It'll have gold trim. It'll still look cool. Silver's Scratch Build Productions. Welcome to the stream. How are the analytics here? Okay, we're just chilling. We're just chilling. I feel a bit bad to stop streaming if someone just joins. Okay, so I guess we'll start building up these blues. So we'll mix Stegadon Scale with, what is this, Temple Guard? Silver Scratch Build says, Tzeentch boys, nice. I just ordered crap loads of Death Guard. Well, Death Guard are hot right now. Oh no! Look, the curse! I have been cursed. This is solid. Completely solid. You guys seeing this? Oh, you can't. My camera is too poor. Yeah, it's just... Dude, that's just like... That's a wrap. All because I couldn't close the pot. Look, just like GW's rules. Flawed, intentional flaws in the design. Terrible. What is a boy to do? Oh, here's what boys are supposed to do. They're supposed to use other products. Take care, wacky inflatable arm man. You take care. Omegoswin says, the rules change, but not how I want them to. Grey Knights were my first army, and I started them in 9th when they had magic and different melee profiles. GW has simplified them too much. Yeah, if you, like, the leaks are out, Omegoswin, so if you see how Grey Knights are, and they're not satisfactory. That's fair. Could look into one-page rules, that sort of thing as well. Maybe they might offer a more satisfying player experience. But I haven't looked at the Grey Knights in one-page rules. Okay, so we're just gonna blue this guy. We're gonna blue him up. Whoops. I forgot. I forgot about this guy's stripes. Yeah, that icon will look really nice actually once you get it all painted. This guy's gonna look awesome. I can feel it. It's just a good part. What am I supposed to do with this backpack? Oh, it's got stripes. That's cool. I guess all these elements will be silver, and then yeah, we'll make these blue. I mean, on the heavy metal paint job, they are all metal or all gold. Okay, well, he's blue now, so that's a thing. The squad's a little bit more together. I'm definitely not going to get to the Word Bearers guy today. Sir Alvin, welcome to the stream. People keep trickling in. Sneaking into the stream. Weird word. Weird. Also welcome. Hail, comrade. I've been binging Grimdark Therapy. Happy to catch you live. Ah, cheers, dude. Glad to hear people are enjoying those chats of ours. We're not toxic. We're not negative all the time. You know, like 50%. So a healthy 50%, I'd say. Okay, so what did I say I was going to do next? Yeah, we're going to shade the Death Guard guy. Just muck him up a bit. I may add a teensy bit of Layman Medium to the wash, just to keep things toned down a bit. I've become a big fan of adding Layman Medium to washes. I think it does wonders for the surface tension. So here we go, our little reservoir. Sir Alvin says, thank you, with the 40K, admiring your work as always. Cheers, man. Thanks for all the work you did with the Tyranids before. Oh, loved the work you did with the Tyranids before. Ah, yes, the Tyranids. I still have a, a to-do project for them. As I awkwardly laugh from what I've been avoiding to do. Yeah, I need to build my Norn creature for High Fleet Gengar, my Norn Phantom, as I've started to call it. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that needs to happen. And only then will I feel they are complete. But that's gonna be like a massive project. Right? It's very nice to work on these small scale projects. Paint a single marine in a fun color scheme. You're like, ah, wow, I'm enjoying this so much, and it doesn't take long before it starts looking good and you start feeling good. But for a giant converted green stuffed, it's not quite Titanic, but it's definitely a large monster. Converted with green stuff. It's basically, it's gonna be a bit more work than the Tyrannofex, and I've been avoiding it. The converted Tyrannofex was a boss, definitely a final boss. It felt that way. To the point where I started the Tyrannofex project and I stopped because I felt like my skill level was too poor with green stuff. So I went and did all the other green stuff work in the army that was in that same video. And then I circled back to the Tyrannofex. Because I'm like, now I'm ready. And I think it paid off fairly well, because it's a pretty good looking conversion. But boy, am I hesitating to begin that design pipeline again. And that is the short of it. The short of as to why I haven't been doing the Norn Phantom project. I don't think it's something I would stream either. I think I'd just do a recorded video for it. It's like, green stuff work is just too messy to do on stream. I think so anyways. Oh shit, I just realized I missed a spot. Damn! Done fucked it up. There, nobody will know. Just you and me, chat. Only we will know. I hate this music. It's giving me anxiety. Sir Alvin says, I think the big issue is the 3-year rotation. It just makes the releases rush out too soon, and it only offers factions one model. Oh yeah, very much the case. Very much the case. And kind of the support for your faction is held hostage to a degree, right? Like if I'm a Tyranid stan, and that's the only thing I collect and play, let's say, and my codex is what it is now, you know, first codex of the edition problems, it just screams every time this happens, and you're the first codex to be released in edition. Your codex screams of design principles, of the rules writers not having a grasp on what the edition requires. And so, if I was a Tyranids only guy, I'm kind of held hostage to want a new edition, because that's the only time I get support. I mean, if you're lucky, maybe there's an end of edition campaign. We'll see, right? But 9th edition's end of edition campaigns didn't really offer you any fixes or improvements or power-ups to help balance you out. It just offered boarding actions, I think. Boarding action rules. Gentleman Viking, welcome to the stream. I'm painting Conquest Nord Huskarls, says the Gentleman Viking. I want a bit more wash on this front plate. It's got to be dirty. He's a very dirty boy. Put some more on his helmet. Umagong's twin says, what the 40k, do you think GW is sending Kaldor Drago to Legends as a way for them to try and stuff Grey Knights into Agents next edition? They didn't get any updated models, and now the Chapter Master is in Legends. I don't think they would... I mean, I guess they could stuff them into Agents of the Inquisition. Agents of the Inquisition is just a good idea with bad execution, in my opinion. I think Agents of the Inquisition just should be a way for you to play a narrative force of an Inquisitor with allies that's just a bit more organized and regulated, which is what they tried to do, but stuffing Deathwatch in there was stupid. They could try to do with Grey Knights, but I could imagine GW doing a range refresh on Grey Knights, because it wouldn't take too many kits, but they would make you buy more models for less money. That's a guarantee, essentially. I think Kaldor Drago going to Legends is purely for convenience because they can't be bothered to do the upkeep for their inventory. GW struggles to maintain inventory on the game systems they are allegedly trying to manage, right? So Legends is their vehicle for making it easier to manage that. Though I do think it is possible an end-of-edition model for Drago does come out. Kind of like how Karandras is strangely missing. Hard for me to imagine Drago's not coming back. That's the gist of it. You know what? I could have painted those skulls and used the same wash we have here. Right. I got some skin color on the old palette. I don't know if it's viable, though. It's a little too weak. Maybe that's okay. I mean, normally I use like a bone color, like a bleached bone or skeleton bone from Army Painter, but I mean, for Death Guard, maybe a flesh tone for your bone components can look good. I like these Renegade, these specialist Marines using standard Chaos Space Marine bodies. They have a certain charm to them. Flamelord says, one thing I know close enough that the tabletop fans about prices of Warhammer, I spent some good amount of money on the Joy Toy Space Marine 2, 3 main characters. Luckily, one of them is on sale. Well, I haven't bought any Joy Toys myself because I'd rather spend my Space Marine money on Space Marine models. But yeah, I think the Joy Toy endeavor has been quite successful for GW, that partnership. And we saw an expansion of that with the helmet. The helmet controversy. The helmet release and the helmet controversy. Okay, we'll let that dry for a little bit. Come back to this guy and just layer in some more of our blue. I mean, the bright blue does have an appeal. Like, I get it. I can understand the Thousand Suns players a little bit. Because it is very, very nice to look at. I am biased towards blue colors, though. I do prefer cool colors in general. Sir Alvin says, Joy Toy Primarchs are legit very nice, just pleasing to the eye. But yes, I also prefer to just buy more Space Marines or other minigames. Yeah, I think it's for a different audience, personally. I know a couple people in my local play group who they're a bit too into Games Workshop, let's say, and then we'll buy product because it is GW, and they must proclaim and rep how much they like. No one must never know how much they like GW, basically. And that's a choice. Certainly a choice. I think it's good to be critical of what you like. Call me crazy. And you can like something, even if it's not, like, you know, in spite of its flaws, too. That's more of a media or story thing. I mean, speaking of Grimdark Therapy, I have one scheduled for tomorrow. The next Grimdark Therapy, is actually going to be hosted on my channel, and it'll be about, unless something happens between now and then, the plan is for it to be on the topic of war gear, because I do have a hypothesis, and I'll share it with you guys. Since we're late into the stream, I think I can share some sauce. I have a hypothesis that the real creative core of the hobby is actually war gear. I'm curious to share this with the other guys and get their input. I think a case can be made. I mean, you can get some nice blends with blues, dude. I tell you what. Alright, before that wash dries up, we should apply it to this guy's shoulder. Kind of nasty looking. But that's good, right? That's good for a Death Guard. That's good for a Nurgle aligned Chaos Space Marine. Yeah, it's definitely browner than I would like, which should be expected given the darker base color, but I'll probably brighten that up with a bit of layering. Yeah, kind of nasty. I'll get this out of here. All right, it's like we're way over time. Way over time. I'll do a little bit of a review and then we're wrapping this up. Okay, so what do we paint today? We got Death Guard Marine. Oh, look, we did the big four. I'm just a dirty bastard like GW, just focusing only on the God-marked Legionaries. Okay, look, we got a Plague Marine here. We didn't do too much on him, though. We just gave him a wash. But he's still looking pretty nice. I cleaned up his base coat, gave him a wash, and painted some skulls. Some overly fleshy skulls. On Emperor's Children, we basically, or I guess I basically, just darkened the armor, but still not dark enough. I'm going to have to figure something out color-wise for this guy because it's not hitting the way I want it to. I do like him a lot. I like the pose. I like the subtle conversions, but he needs a darker, richer armor color, I think. Majority of today's time was spent on the Khorne Berserker. Nice red values. Reds always look good when they're blended, though. Very eye-catchy. And a little Thousand Sun action. A sorcerer, an aspiring sorcerer, to be sure. And there's the four of them. Just hanging out. There's four cool guys hanging out. Any other messages to catch up on? I don't think so. We are going to wrap up the stream. All right, so thanks everybody for tuning in and sharing in the hobby camaraderie. If you made it to the end, you guys are the real hobby heroes. And special thanks to... Oh, wait, how do I... Oh, there's a way to find this out. Special thanks to... Oh, why can't I... It's so small. The font is so small. Why would they do it this way? Okay, Hammer Thor for the generous $5 super chat. Much appreciated. And with that, I will catch you guys in the next one.